By the way, an op-ed in the New York Times is getting a lot of attention, not because of the topic, but because of who is writing this op-ed. The Republican mayor of Oklahoma City, David Holt's his name. He published a piece that was given the headline, "I'm a red state mayor. Diversity is not reverse bigotry." In that essay, he pushes back on the idea that championing diversity is so-called reverse discrimination. Holt writes, "To cast equal opportunity as a threat rather than a goal is to move backwards. And broader perspectives yield more inclusive outcomes." So why did these points of view put a local politician in the national spotlight? Joining us now from Oklahoma City is Mayor David Holt. Holt is also the current president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we should point out, so we'll get to some topics on that as well. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
So could you clarify, because the headline and then the body of the op-ed don't exactly match up. Are you arguing in favor of DEI programs and racial preferences to correct the past? And why'd you want to make this argument, write this op-ed today?
Well, I'm arguing for what I argue in the piece, which for me is 7 years of effort in Oklahoma City to provide equal opportunity for all my constituents. And I think you're showing right now a picture that shows the conference room wall in my office, which I've got 20 kids depicted on the wall of my conference room wall. They are demographically representative of the kids of Oklahoma City, who are 60% non-white. Those pictures replaced 34 pictures of old mayors who were 33 out of 34 were male and all 34 were white. And that reflected a time period in our city's history that's not too different from the rest of our country, where there really was not equal opportunity for women, for people of color. And I have spent 7 years as mayor, projecting a very different philosophy, because I knew that that's not sustainable. We've got to have pathways for success in our city so that everybody in our city, every kid in Oklahoma City feels like they could be the mayor, or they could be whatever else it is that they want.
Yeah.
And,
Mayor,
I don't know, you asked me initially about DEI. I mean, I look at it as equal opportunity. And I'm not for quotas. I'm for equal opportunity and pathways to achieve that.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. Because when I talk to Republicans about this, they often say, I'm not against equal opportunity. They're often against equality of outcome. They support the opportunity, not the outcome. But you clarified it. I appreciate that. Given that it's a little bit...
If I may say real quick, you've got to create the pathways for that, though, and that's maybe where they fall short sometimes. But go ahead, sir.
Well, so on that subject, have you heard from the White House about this? Because, Donald Trump is definitely pulling back on DEI. He's pushing other organizations all across the country to remove DEI policies. Have you heard from him about the move you pulled with the kids on the wall, taking down the old portraits, or about the op-ed in general?
No. I'm sure the president's very busy and doesn't need to micromanage the affairs of Oklahoma City. So, no, I haven't heard.
I want to turn to the deployment of the National Guard troops in the nation's capital. You run a council of mayors. You sit at the head of that. The president said he might consider sending troops to cities like Chicago as well. As president of the National Conference of Mayors, what's your response to that?
Yeah, well, we're always very clear that we believe in local control. Simultaneously with that, we've been seeking assistance for manpower and woman power on the streets of our cities to project public safety for decades. That goes back to President Clinton's COPS program in the 1990s. So, we're not averse to federal partnership that puts more people on the street to protect our residents. But we need to be a part of that conversation, because local leadership, local control is always best, especially when you're talking about public safety, which is a very delicate topic. You need to have police officers, police chiefs, and mayors at the table who understand what the local community needs. So we're against any time, that this is projected as a takeover or we don't have any control over it. But we welcome partnership. And I think that's a conversation worth having. I recognize that's not necessarily what's being proposed here. But we're not saying, I don't think, as a group of mayors, that we never want any help. We ask for partnership and help all the time. We're very open to help. But this type of approach, it also doesn't recognize that crime rates are plummeting in cities across the country, including the ones that have been discussed.
Well, would you welcome help from the National Guard, though, if it wasn't framed as a takeover to reduce crime?
I mean, in certain situations, I don't need that in Oklahoma City. Our crime rates have declined 40% over the last 7 years. But, I'm sure that there are certain situations where if it's a partnership and the mayors are able to work directly with these folks, there may be areas where that's necessary and helpful. I don't know. You have to have that conversation. Those conversations don't appear to be happening right now.
So what's your advice to the mayor of Chicago right now as he faces a possible deployment of the U.S. National Guard there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got to do what he's got to do. I mean, he has to stand for local control, and America's mayors stand with him. We know that he's focused on public safety. We know that his crime rates are falling, and we hope that he can work something out with the federal government so that we can continue to retain local control, which I think has been one of the bedrock principles of our American experiment.
So you haven't had any arguments with any Republicans about the things you're saying on TV now and the things you wrote in the op-ed? Because it does differ from most people in your party.
I got elected with 78%. I beat my MAGA opponents a couple years ago by 47 points, So I believe that in Oklahoma City, which is a city that is very politically and demographically representative of the country, that we are demonstrating that people can get along, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And if you have someone like me who's willing to find those outcomes that are good enough for everybody, that we can get 70% of people to work together. I don't believe that the country is really as polarized as it appears on a daily basis. I think that we have extremists who control the debate. But here in OKC, we have found a way to work together as one OKC. So, no, I mean, I'm not saying nobody ever criticizes me, but we have had great validation.
I hear you. I hear you. You're not worried. You like where you are. I appreciate it. Oklahoma City is a beautiful city, by the way, too. I've been there. I love it.
It is. Mayor David Holt, thank you so much.